This is the Berg um, Wadsworth case, and it was an interesting case. It was a construction delay case as well. When they first came to us, they thought maybe they wanted to do this all in 3D, but to do this all in 3D would have been quite expensive and quite a bit more time than we had. And more importantly, they had this beautiful, amazing drone footage that they were able to go out and shoot. So, absolutely, I suggested we use it. So I put together kind of a quick piece to it, but I think what I want to show first is the boring one, and this is this is construction delay, the stuff we were just talking about. So here's all the things that had to happen. 70. These are areas and things that had to happen. Drainage and earthworks. That means they had to move earth. Basically. So here we have the planned dates of the planning. So this here has to do with the planning and the IFCs. So you can see the green dots are when they plan to have these plans together, and the red dots are when they actually had completion of this information, so they could actually do the work. And then we have the delay information that you can see here, and this is the delay time between those points, and then this is a total delay time. So there's all of the delay in the plans, and then here you can see here's the completion of work was scheduled on this date right here. This was supposed to be completed. And if you see, all of these plans were still being done very near what was supposedly the completion date. So obviously you can't complete a project if you're still waiting on the plans at around the time you were supposed to be done. And then to complete this little chart, it all cruises down once we've established that. Now, here you see after the whole entire thing, the other side's claiming liquidated damages from delays. So not only were the delays not our fault because we didn't have the plans, but you guys are claiming liquidated damages from things well past the date that it was completed. So that's this chart. It's a little bit boring, but I think it's a good way to show the kinds of things we were just talking about.
And you should note that this was a highway construction case in Denver here.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. This was the construction. I'll get into that now. The construction on this was about this um, RTD rail line that cruises from Union Station here in the heart of Denver all the way up north to Thornton. So here we're kind of establishing colors of the sections of the whole place and the entire line that needed to be designed and done. So I'll go through this. Now this was a really, really long PowerPoint presentation, and this particular um, client was very difficult and liked a lot of text and really ugly slides. So I got rid of most of the ugly slides. So, but what we do have here is kind of just a walkthrough of all of the different things. So here is a section of the track that we see here. And this is just an example of all of the different kinds of things that the construction of this track had to deal with. There's adjacent private property, people owning property and stuff going on. There's riverways. This is the South Platte River here. There's the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line that mirrors much of the line that we have to do. And as you can see, like this is within, 50 foot of building a whole new bridge here. And this bridge already existed when you had to build this bridge. So this gets to the point of there's a lot going on. Here's the same kind of thing. There's boulevards and railways and, all this stuff happening kind of all together.
That's really nice way to show that, Steve.
Yeah, thanks. So the first part is the Skyway Bridge, and that's this here scope of work. So now we're talking about just the Skyway Bridge and the problems there were spans, there was a concrete error, there were these transmission lines, and there was this building called Republic Paperboard. So now we're going to talk about just the spans, and that's another image here. And again, there was lots of slides in between these, so it looks a little bit repetitive, but it's because he between these he had, you know, a bunch of, you know, witness testimony and slides and stuff. So it just goes through lots of these things. Here's this idea with the Republic paperboard. If you'll see, there's a building, and the building used to actually be big enough right here to cross the tracks. So they had to, you know, literally chop off part of the building and build new walls. And then this whole area here was their loading dock, and all that had to be taken care of. And then there were these things called straddle bends, which are giant, like the giant trussways that go up and hold up the, you know, hold up the bridge. So like they're bridge supports. And there was a lot of those that had to be built. And here's one of those right here that you can see kind of a close up. But this is all leading to what this part is, and this was kind of their main deal. And so these we had throughout, and these were videos that we put together. So typically, like what we do is we started with a video here, and then I just brought on labels one at a time. And then PowerPoint automatically stops it for the client so they can sit there and talk to it, and then come and hit play, and then we move on. So now we're following this Skyway bridge. And here's that highlight that we saw a little while ago. This is the same Skyway bridge, and there's straddle band 8, which was a problem. And then back to the drone footage, following it through. And then we'd get to another spot in the drone footage where we'd want to see a highlight. So I'd stop the footage. We'd do this darkening technique where we can actually see these piers. And of course, each one of these things had a problem with it. So there was maybe a, you know, delay document here on Pier 17 that they wanted to talk about. Or I think in this case, it was the order of these piers. You know, they like to build them in order, but they had to build them out of order because of these transmission lines. An interesting side note on this. So here's a good example. They were supposed to build this line here, but they had to stop because Excel had to come in with the transmission lines. So they had to stop work on these transmission lines for, I think it was like 6 or 8 months while they were waiting for Excel to come in and move its power lines. And of course, that's a delay that we had no control over. It was supposed to be done before we even got there on site. And you know, it was an example of, you know, a major delay that was completely out of our control. So this is again that paperboard company that I was talking about, and here's the building here. So this whole area was theirs that we had to deal with. And then the original building, as you can see, used to stick out here, and this was their original loading dock. So again, we had to, you know, get permits and get with these owners to move all this stuff around, and it was supposed to be taken care of, but of course it was just constant delays. And you know, more. So I'll just kind of click through this because there's an awful lot of it.
Did they hire a local company to do the drone footage, or did they have their own drone?
No, it was like the major contractor guy's like brother or something owned a drone thing. But here's a real interesting fact is that so this drone operator exists with this company. He works for the company, and so when they go out to bid these things, they fly drones over the whole thing now. So they look over it all, and they ran this path with a drone before they did any construction, and that told them like lots of information about, well, this is in the way here, and we got to do this here, and it's all part of the surveying work now, which is something that I hadn't thought about. But more and more, I bet with construction work, they're going to have lots of footage like this because they're out there shooting it for their own reasons, you know. Now, that being said, a lot of this footage they went out and reshot after it was completed because that's what we wanted to see was completed footage. So they were actually able to go out while I was working on the case and shoot stuff that we didn't have. So then we'll go into the next part. So now we're talking about another section which is closer to Union Station, and it has a lot of the same kind of treatment. So I'll just kind of click through it, but lots of great shots that we were able to take from the drone footage and then include it all together. So here's another section with the exact same kind of treatment. We show a little bit, stop. Now here's some stuff, you know, something out of one of the expert reports about columns, caps, and piers and things like that.
Steve, I'm seeing some, some modest jerkiness in the video. Is that just because of the internet, or is it and it runs smoothly on your end?
n- well, for the most part, it does run smoothly, but like that right there, that little jerkiness stuff, that's actually when they're filming it in the drone and they
Yeah.
make too quick of movements with the drone. It
Okay.
kind of gives you that little shudder. And then,
Yeah.
of course, once I have to step it down even more, it kind of accentuates it.
Yeah.
There's an idea here, if we get in early on one of these cases, which we probably never will, it would be interesting to have, suggest to the drone crew that they program a flyover of the before
Right.
conditions and then repeat that same path after
Yeah.
the thing's done.
Yeah.
And you could stop anywhere along the way and fade from before to after.
Oh man, that would be
Because
great.
all these moves are programmable. You can set
Yep.
GPS points and you could refly the same path. I don't know if they think about it, or maybe we'd ask if they did save the path, if instead of them flying it freehand, if he programmed it, they might be able to recall that data and then refly it when the project's done. That would be a cool comparison.
Yeah, it sure would.
Yeah, exactly. Because Gary, this is a good example of that. So this is during construction that they had their drone out there shooting long before they even knew there was going to be a case.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So they
Yeah.
didn't do this section here for me. They just did this section here because it was a. But you're right. So if this was a programmed move that they knew was going over these Washington Street Bridge piers, they
Yeah.
could go out and hit the same button and record it again
Yeah.
and show a before and after, which would be pretty cool. But here again, this is great use of footage that they had existing. Once I could get it out of the guy and actually convince him that this could work this way, then it came together really nicely. Um, so that was that one. So then there's Skyway Bridge to the end of the line, and it's kind of the same treatment with one last video. So I'll just kind of let it play.
So how much was this total project, Steve? It looks pretty elaborate.
I don't remember right now. Let me look it up.
You mean how much we charged for it, or
Yeah, how much did we charge for it? Yeah.
Don't remember.
Oh, and Jonesy's not on, is she?
No.
Let me see. Oops, sorry, everyone.
I can tell you. I'm
Oh,
looking,
awesome. Oh, cool.
looking.
And did they
Wrong
go
year.
to, did they go to their hearing and this is over and done?
I believe it is, and of course I never heard back.
Yeah.
But this was, the one where the guy's calling me at, 4 a.m, and he was a very, very, very important guy.
It was $49,113.
Geez, a bargain.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
this footage here, they literally shot like probably 4 days before it had to be done. So they shot it in a day, transferred it over, I edited it, we got it in the final thing with hours to spare. But the fact that we could go out and do it, and he could just make a phone call, and the guys went out and shot this stuff, and we knew that we needed to show this Skyway Bridge, South Platte River shot, and we had nothing else to show it with. So it was really pretty nice that they could just run out and within a few days get the footage they needed and have a completed presentation with these highlights. And that was really the hard part, is that I'd have to go and I'd say, okay, you guys want to see this, so is this a good still? And a lot of times we kind of just work live, where I would scrub through the footage and they'd say, okay, stop here and label this little ditch right here coming up, and it's called this, and then I would put it in. So once we kind of got that pattern going, it worked out fairly well. But as you can see, I mean, this line ran by schools and, over lots of stuff. So for a construction piece, this had a lot going on and a lot of delays. And I think the total delay was a couple years or something.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I like those highlights on the aerial footage to identify what you're looking at. That's real cool.
yeah, and it works out, instead of trying to and this is a whole label, but instead of trying to pull out things or highlight certain ones, I found that it was easier just to darken the entire screen.
Mhm.
And then, and then with Photoshop, you could just erase the darkened parts and it left the original video. So that's how I did those.
Yeah, that works good.
Yeah.
And
And that's Wadsworth.